So get this. There was once a Roman emperor who, according to one historian, never slept. His name was Justinian, and the historian Procopius claimed he was a demon who would wander the palace halls at night without a head. That's probably not true, but it tells you something. Justinian was a man of immense energy and ambition. He was always working, always planning, always trying to rebuild the glory of the Roman Empire. But his most important achievement wasn't conquering land or building churches. It was organizing a giant, messy pile of laws into one single coherent system. This became known as the Justinian Code, or the Corpus Juris Civilis, the body of civil law. Imagine your school had 1,000 different rule books, all contradicting each other. That's what the Roman legal system looked like before Justinian. He decided it was time for a major cleanup. For Justinian, law was the glue that held society together. He believed a great empire needed great laws, fair, clear, and for everyone. By creating one unified code, he wasn't just organizing papers, he was building a stronger, more stable empire. And here's the wild part. His project worked, not just for his own time, but for centuries to come. The Justinian Code became one of the most influential legal documents in history. So while the story about him being a headless demon is almost certainly fake, the story of how his Book of Laws changed the world is very real. And that's a much better story. Let's talk about the man himself, Justinian. He wasn't born into luxury. He came from a peasant family in the Balkans. His path to power came through his uncle Justin, who became emperor and brought Justinian to Constantinople. There, Justinian got a top-notch education and quickly learned the ins and outs of politics. When he became emperor in 527 CE, he dreamed of restoring the Roman Empire. He launched massive military campaigns to reconquer lost territories and saw himself as the heir to Augustus and Constantine. But Justinian wasn't just a conqueror, he was a builder too. His most famous project? The Hagia Sophia, a church so grand he boasted he'd outdone Solomon. He poured money into buildings, but his third great project was the law. Justinian was obsessed with details, and the messy state of Roman law bothered him. He believed a restored empire needed a restored legal system, a clear, logical, and universal set of laws. This legal ambition would become his most enduring legacy. To understand why the Justinian Code was revolutionary, you have to see the mess it replaced. For nearly 1,000 years, Romans made laws, by the Senate, emperors, legal scholars, and local judges. By the 6th century, it was a chaotic jumble of documents, often contradictory. Imagine being a judge. To settle a dispute, you'd have to dig through mountains of old texts, many of which disagreed. This made justice slow, expensive, and unpredictable, favoring the wealthy who could afford expert lawyers. When laws are unclear, corruption thrives. Judges could be bribed, and powerful people could twist the system. Justinian saw this as a weakness. How could he rule a just empire if its legal foundations were crumbling? He didn't want to create new laws from scratch. He wanted to organize the best of Roman legal thought into a single authoritative source. The goal: eliminate contradictions, get rid of outdated laws, and create a logical, easy-to-use system. It was an epic editing project, a grand effort to give the Roman world one book of rules everyone could follow. This was about more than tidiness. It was about justice and stability, and it would change the empire forever. Justinian knew he couldn't do this alone. He needed a dream team. Enter Tribonian, a legal genius with a vast library and encyclopedic knowledge of Roman law. Justinian put Tribonian in charge of a commission of top legal minds. Their job sift through centuries of Roman legal writings and forged them into a single code. They started in 528 CE, first tackling the imperial constitutions. Hundreds of years of decrees, edited and organized into the Codex Justinianus. Next came the Digest, a 50-volume encyclopedia of the best legal opinions from history. Then, the Institutes, a textbook for law students, and finally, the Novellae, or New Laws. Together, these four parts form the Corpus Juris Civilis. In less than a decade, Justinian's team turned 1,000 years of legal chaos into a single, accessible body of law. It was a monumental achievement, and it set the standard for legal systems to come. So what did this giant collection of laws actually cover? Pretty much everything about running a society. The code was divided into public law, government and people, and private law, relationships between individuals. It defined citizenship, slavery, marriage, divorce, inheritance, and adoption. The code clarified family relationships and property rights, making life more predictable and orderly. It also focused on property and contracts, how to buy, sell, or rent property, and what made an agreement legally binding. Many modern contract principles come straight from these Roman laws. The code addressed crimes and punishments, and legal procedure, how trials should be conducted. One key principle, innocent until proven guilty. The code emphasized evidence and discouraged decisions based on rumors. In a world of arbitrary justice, this was a powerful step toward fairness. Let's make this real. Imagine Helena, a woman in Constantinople, 540 CE. Her brother tries to take all the family property, claiming women can't inherit. Before Justinian, the laws were confusing. She might have lost everything. But the Justinian Code clarified inheritance. Sons and daughters had much more equal rights. Helena could point to the law and defend her claim. Or take Marcus, a merchant who buys olive oil. The shipment arrives rancid. Before the code, he'd argue endlessly. But now, the code's rules on contracts and implied warranties let him take the supplier to court. The code also professionalized the legal world. Law students across the empire learned the same principles, creating a class of professional lawyers and judges. This meant more consistent justice no matter where you lived. Of course, the system wasn't perfect. The rich still had advantages, and harsh aspects like slavery remained. But compared to the chaos before, it was a massive improvement. For many, the code brought legal security and predictability their ancestors never had. It gave ordinary people a tool to defend their rights, and it set a new standard for justice. That's real impact. After Justinian's death, his dream of a reunited empire faded, but his legal code survived. In the Byzantine East, it remained the legal foundation for centuries. In Western Europe, the code was mostly forgotten, until a complete manuscript was rediscovered in Pisa around 1070. Scholars at the University of Bologna studied it intensely, sparking a legal revolution. Medieval Europe's legal systems were local and unwritten. The Justinian Code offered a rational, written system for a changing world. As trade and cities grew, people needed better laws. The code provided a ready-made framework. Revived Roman law became the jus commune, the common law of mainland Europe. Law students brought its ideas home, helping build the legal foundations of new nations. The ripple Justinian started in Constantinople became a wave across Europe. His book of rules was now shaping the continent. The Justinian Code's influence didn't stop in the Middle Ages. When European nations created their own legal codes in the 18th and 19th centuries, they drew heavily on Justinian's work. The most famous example? The Napoleonic Code, which was exported across Europe and beyond. Today, most countries with civil law systems, from Europe to Latin America to Asia, trace their legal roots to Justinian. Even in common law countries, Roman law's influence is felt in ideas like legal precedent and the principle of written public law. The code's emphasis on evidence, procedure, and innocent until proven guilty are ideals that endure. Justinian wanted a lasting monument to Roman justice, and he got it. His Book of Rules is still shaping our world 1,500 years later. So, a Roman emperor who may or may not have been a headless demon hired a team of nerds to organize old papers, and ended up shaping half the world's legal systems. It shows that history isn't just dates and battles. It's a living thing that shapes our lives. The rules that govern us are the product of a long, fascinating conversation across centuries. Justinian's greatest achievement wasn't a war or a building, but a bureaucratic project to clean up a messy filing system. It's a reminder that ideas about order, justice, and society can outlast empires. The Code story also shows that history doesn't move in a straight line. Knowledge can be lost and rediscovered, changing the world anew. Good ideas have a way of sticking around even if they have to wait centuries. The Justinian Code is just one chapter in our ongoing story of building better societies. It connects our modern world to the ancient one. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to be awesome.